A ventricle basically is just like a hollow area that fills up with cerebral spinal fluid. And so the model looks like it's solid. We have better models in lab that are kind of amber color, that kind of look like they have a fluid in them. So the model that you're going to see in a moment, it's very misleading. It's actually hollow with cerebral spinal fluid. And so we've got a left and right lateral ventricle. Remember, lateral means out to the side. So one on the left, one on the right. And they surround the corpus callosum. And that's what's happening here. And then you have your third ventricle, which basically surrounds your thalamus. And then you've got your fourth ventricle, which is right there at the end of your cerebellum. And then the connector part is that aqueductus sylvius. So I just wanted, this is a little video here. There we go. So you can see that it's filling up. This is cerebral spinal fluid. And then it fills up around. We're going to look at the subdural, the arachnoid mater and the pia mater in just a moment. So it fills up. So this is what it looks like. Again, it looks like it's solid in your brain, and it really is not solid. It looks like a bird in there. This is where these are openings. This is surrounding the corpus callosum. This is surrounding the thalamus. This is surrounding right over here by the cerebellum. There's a little opening there, and then there's that little river behind it, which is the aqueductus sylvius going on. So this fills up with cerebral spinal fluid, and then you also have cerebral spinal fluid going on all through that down into your spinal cord. So you have to know your ventricles. So you have a left and right lateral ventricle, and then you have there are four total. So the left and right laterals are ventricles 1 and 2, but you don't call them 1 and 2. And then there's the third ventricle, the fourth ventricle. So let me show you the way that looks on the model. So this is the model, and again, it looks solid, but it's really not solid. It has cerebral spinal fluid in it, and so the way you can figure out what's the front, to me it looks like a bird. So it looks like a bird with the little beak here. That should always be facing the front. Okay, so if this is facing the front, this that's going around the corpus callosum on this side, you would be looking at, if you were looking at this would be looking at your right lateral ventricle. So this is the right lateral ventricle. On the other side that we're not seeing on the model would be the left lateral ventricle. So this whole side here is the right lateral ventricle. Okay, this little part here, this whole part that looks like the bird and this whole little bird's body, this whole part here is known as the third ventricle. So this whole part here is the third ventricle. So this that connects the third ventricle, which is here, and back behind here, which is going to be the tail area back there, this area right here is the aqueductus sylvius. This is that little river thing that I was showing you. Again, all this little area is just hollowed out, filled with cerebral spinal fluid. So this is the cerebral aqueduct or aqueductus sylvius, this little area here. So third ventricle, aqueductus sylvius, right lateral ventricle. So we're looking at it now. It's facing that direction. This is the tail. So we were looking at the model from the back. And so you could see, if I'm facing that direction, this would be the left lateral ventricle, This one would be the right lateral ventricle. This that I'm looking at here is the aqueductus sylvius. This here that you can't really see is the third ventricle. So this is really ventricle 1, 2, and 3. That's not a ventricle, that's just the aqueductus sylvius. And this here is the fourth ventricle, basically the tail area there. So this is the right lateral ventricle, and this is the aqueductus sylvius. This is the fourth ventricle. And the little pink cells that you are seeing that are here, they're up underneath both of those. That is called the, well, there we go. It is called the choroid plexus. Choroid plexus. That is the choroid plexus here, all that pink stuff there. They're epidermal cells, which are making the cerebral spinal fluid. You should have learned about epidermal cells, which are some of your neuroglia cells, epidermal cells. So they are making cerebral spinal fluid that is being held in those. So that is the choroid plexus, that pink that you're seeing all on this model. Alrighty. This video here is a 2-minute video. Miss Johnson, she is going to go over these parts of this. She's going to hold it. You know, I'm not at school and I don't have the model, so I couldn't do that. And she'd already made great videos, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel there. So there's a good video of her going over that model.